Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway, and let's get into it. Oh, what's up, everybody? Oh my goodness. It has been a while since I sat down to record, and wow, a ton has happened. I'll just give you guys a little life update before I get into the topic. This podcast episode is coming out the Monday before Christmas, which is historically my absolute lowest download day. So if you are listening to this, I know that we are friends. Like, you guys are the true fans. And so you guys are maybe the ones who might actually care about a life update, versus everybody else who listens to the podcast. So, oh my goodness. In November, my husband and I bought our first house. It's really, really exciting. We have been trying to buy a house for 2 years now. We live in California. So that housing market is as crazy as people say it is if you are not from California. And so it's just been a long time coming. We are just so excited. The house checked like literally every one of our boxes. It's exactly the house that we were looking for, the one that we wanted to buy. Like, it's incredible. God is so good. We closed on our house in November, and then like a week later, we packed up our bags and took a family trip to Rome to celebrate the Jubilee. We walked through the holy doors. We saw the Pope. We were able to get our son, our baby, John Paul, blessed by the Pope, which was super, super cool. It was an incredible trip. It was such a gift from God. The trip was kind of crazy, actually, because back in May, when Pope Francis died and when Pope Leo was announced, I was changing a diaper, and this thought popped into my head, and it was like, you need to go to Rome. And my immediate reaction was just like, haha, that's hilarious. Nobody goes to Rome with 3 kids. Like, that's so silly. That's not even possible for us. We'd never be able to find the money for that. Like, that's just silly. And it just kind of kept poking at us or poking at me. And I talked to my husband about it, and we made it work, and it was an incredible trip. But now I'm back, and it's been like a month since we closed on our house, and our house is still like so far from being unpacked. I just barely got, like, my office is still boxes, but I got my microphone out, so yay. All right, with that, let's jump into the topic. I wanted to talk about handling disappointment, and this can really go across like every aspect of your marriage. But what I want to talk about is how we let disappointment affect our sex life. And this is honestly really timely because this is coming out the Monday before Christmas, and Christmas is a time when wives and particularly mothers are often very disappointed because we have an expectation of a certain gift or a certain way that our husband is going to act or something he's going to do for us or not do. And that doesn't happen. What I want to talk about in this episode is how we let that disappointment trickle into our sex life, and how we let that disappointment affect how we show up in the bedroom and how we say yes or no to sex, and why that is actually a huge, huge problem. It is absolutely not okay for you to let your disappointment about Christmas affect how you show up in your sex life. And let's talk about why. And I'm not saying this to shame you, because it's so easy to do. It is so easy to be disappointed from something that our husband did and then just feel like we need to like withhold. But when that happens, if we allow disappointment from an external event affect how we say yes or no to sex, we are turning our marriage into a tally where it's like, well, you didn't do this, so I'm not going to give you sex. Well, you didn't do what I wanted, so we're not having sex. Like, we're turning sex into a currency, and we cannot do that, ladies. If we want to have a healthy sex life and a healthy marriage, we cannot allow sex to be a currency. So when we are disappointed by something that happens in the marriage, in life, in whatever, like, we cannot let that affect, like, we cannot let that mean we're not having sex. Like, I'm disappointed in you, so therefore no sex. Like, we have to be so careful, and we need to protect our relationship, and we need to be so careful about turning sex into a currency. And let's talk a little bit more about disappointment and managing disappointment. So when we are disappointed, every single time that we are disappointed because of the way that we're thinking about what happened. The circumstance is neutral. The circumstance, your husband didn't get you the present that you wanted, or maybe didn't get you a present at all. That circumstance is a neutral circumstance. It's just a thing that happened. Your thought from that is probably, most likely, my husband doesn't care about me. Oh my gosh, that's a disappointing thought. If you truly believe that your husband doesn't care about you, of course you're going to be disappointed. And of course, if you truly are thinking that your husband doesn't care about you, then you don't want to have sex with that guy. That makes perfect sense. But here's the thing. That statement isn't true. And that's why it's a problem if we let our disappointment affect the way that we are showing up in the bedroom. That statement is not true. That thought, my husband doesn't care about me, not a true thought. It's not. Your husband does care about you. He cares deeply for you. He simply did not get you the present that you wanted. So, what we need to do is actually manage the way that we think about these circumstances that happen. So in this example, right, husband doesn't get you a present for Christmas. Your thought can be something very different. And it can actually lead you to different feelings. And therefore, we're not letting these circumstances affect the way that we are showing up for sex. So instead of thinking my husband doesn't care about me, which is not a true statement, instead of thinking that, we can recognize the situation. Oh, you know what? I actually didn't communicate to him that I wanted a present. I didn't communicate to him what I wanted. We didn't sit down before Christmas and, confirm with each other that we were actually going to exchange gifts. Okay? Because there are so many situations where, it can feel like the logical option to not exchange gifts. And if you don't communicate that, then it's going to lead to disappointment, right? Your husband is not a mind reader, never will be a mind reader, and his job is not to become a mind reader. Let me repeat that. Your husband is not a mind reader, will never become a mind reader, and his job is not to be a mind reader. If there is something that you want, if there is something that you desire, and in this example, we're talking about Christmas presents, you need to communicate that. You need to clarify expectations. Clarify the expectation that you're expecting a gift and that you're expecting a gift of a certain caliber, right? I'm expecting a gift somewhere in the range of these things. It's so common. It's so common. Let's just think about this. It's so common for parents and extended family members to expect a Christmas list from their kids. It's a super, super common thing to be like, hey, give me your Christmas list. What do you want for Christmas? But then we as wives, we're like, my husband should know. He'll know. He knows what I want. I've laid down a couple of hints. No. He doesn't. He does not know unless you tell him and you ask him or give him a Christmas list. Say, hey, any one of these 5 things I'd love. But then let's talk about even beyond that. Let's say that you communicate that. And you give him a list of 5 things. You're like, any one of these 5 things I would love. And he gets you something not on that list and you don't like it. Your thought, again, your thought is probably going to be something like, he doesn't care about me. But that's not true. Your husband does care about you. The circumstance of the gift that you get for Christmas is neutral. Ladies, we are not going to let our disappointment over what happens on Christmas affect our sex life. We are better than that. We care about our marriage more than that. We care about our sex life more than that. We are going to work on managing our mind around disappointment. We're going to recognize that the circumstances are neutral, and we're going to catch those thoughts. We're going to catch those thoughts. Oh, my husband doesn't care about me. Oh, wait. That's not true. What is true? What is true about the situation? Okay, maybe I didn't communicate clearly enough. I need to set expectations more. Maybe I need to sit down with my husband and say, hey, before Christmas, I gave you this list of 5 things and then you didn't get me something on the list. What happened? Right? And you can ask that question without resentment, without like you could just curiously be like, hey, like I gave you this list because these are all things I would have enjoyed. This one wasn't on my list. Honestly, it's not my thing. I don't like it that much, right? But you can say that without being like snippy, right? And maybe you need to work on the wording on that. Maybe you wouldn't say it exactly like I said it, but like get curious. Ask your husband, hey, I was expecting a gift. I got you a gift. Christmas is a time to exchange gifts. I do expect a gift. Can we make sure that happens next year? Or, hey, guess what? Christmas, 12 days long. So if on Christmas Day you don't get a gift, you have time to tell your husband, hey, bud, did you get me a Christmas gift? I'm looking forward to a Christmas gift, right? Like, it is okay to expect those things. It's okay to say those things. And maybe, don't use the wording. Don't use the tone that I'm using right now because I'm feeling a little feisty. So let me just repeat the most important thing that we talked about here. The two most important things. First off, your husband is not a mind reader, will not become a mind reader, and his job is not to be a mind reader. If you want something, you need to communicate it. And then the second most important thing is that we are not going to let disappointment over Christmas affect the way that we show up in the bedroom, because we are not going to turn sex into a currency. We recognize that it is far more important than that. All right, ladies, have a great Christmas. Happy last couple of days of Advent if you're listening to this in real time. Merry Christmas, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for listening. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast, could you do me a favor really quick? Go into the podcast app that you are listening in, and if it gives you an option to rate and review, please rate and review this podcast. It helps us so much in reaching new listeners and spreading the word about this podcast. Thanks so much for listening.